Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we build a simple authentication system. In today's video, we build a simple email and password authentication system using Node.js and TypeScript. We'll also introduce and familiarize ourselves with NestJS, a back-end server-side framework for JavaScript. Okay, the database for this application will be MongoDB. We will use TypeORM for interacting with our MongoDB database as our ORM, okay? And if you don't know what TypeORM is, please, I have a video on this channel where I took my time to introduce and familiarize you with getting started with TypeORM for MongoDB, okay? So let's move on. NestJS enables us to build back-end services with Node.js and your favorite programming language, TypeScript, with a cheetah-like speed, okay? So we are going to cover the following talking points over the course of this video. So the first thing we look at is project installation and setup in NestJS. Then we are going to install and set up TypeORM. We are going to create a user account and allow them to log in. We are going to implement JWTs. So the link to the source code for this video is going to be attached in the description below, okay? So you can click that link and check out the source code rather on GitHub. So let's start with the project installation and setup. Let's open up a browser tab and navigate to the home page for NestJS. I'm going to navigate to the documentation page where I'm going to try to set up a NestJS project. We'll copy the command to clone a NestJS starter project on GitHub. I'm going to open up a terminal, pasting that command I just copied, and wait for that repository to finish cloning. I'm going to navigate to the project directory and open up that project in VS Code. Then I'm going to run npm install to install all of the dependencies for that project, okay? With the dependencies installed, I'm going to run npm start to start off the project locally. So once that project is started up locally, I'm going to open up a new browser tab and navigate to localhost port 3000. I can see that we get a text back which reads hello world. Now let me show you the section of the code that's responsible for processing this request and sending back this response. I'm going to open up a project on VS Code and then I'll navigate to src/controllers folder, okay? Then I'll open up the app.controller.cs file. You can see that inside of this file, there's a class that is exported from this file. This is the app controller class and is decorated with the controller decorator, which can be imported from @nestjs/common. This allows us to mark any class in our code to be a controller. That is, an instance of this class will be used to handle and process HTTP requests, okay? You can see that the app controller class has one method defined on it, getHello, which returns a string. You can observe that the getHello method is decorated with a getDecorator. The job of this decorator is to mark this method to only be called when a get request is made, okay? So this method is only going to be called when a get request is made. The decorator accepts an optional string argument which specifies the route which this method is attached to, so that anytime we make a request to that route, this method is going to be called. So inside the getHello method, there is a return statement which returns the result of calling this.appService.getHello method. The app service is part of the constructor argument for the app controller class, and it is injected into this app controller class, okay? And it is on this service where we define the functions/methods that we actually process the request payload and give us the response that we are going to send back to the user, okay? So let's take a look at this app service class. I'm going to navigate to the app service.ts file, and you can see that inside of this file, there is a class, app service, which is exported from it. This app service class is decorated with the @injectable decorator, which is imported from @nestjs common. This decorator allows us to inject this class into a controller. Think about dependency injection. And if you don't understand what dependency injection is, again, I have a video where I introduce the concept of dependency injection. So you can go ahead and watch that video and come back and continue with this, okay? So this decorator allows us to inject this class into a controller. The app service class has one method defined on it, that is the getHello method we called inside the app controller.getHello function. This getHello method just returns a string, hello world. So now that we are done setting up NestJS, let's go ahead to install and set up TypeORM, okay? In order for us to do that, we need to open up a terminal and run npm install TypeORM save. and wait for type_rm to finish installing. After which I'm going to run npm install reflex metadata, save. Then I'm going to import reflect metadata into main.ts. And this is because when working with type_rm, we need to import reflect metadata at the topmost level of our project. And for a NestJS project, the main.txt file is the main entry route for our application. Now install a MongoDB driver into the project. Then I'll create a new file named datasource.ts inside SRC folder. Inside this file, we'll import data source from type_rm. Then I'm going to create and export a variable add data source whose value will be the result of instantiating the data source class we imported from type_rm. This class accepts a config object as its constructor function. Okay, we'll copy and paste a default config object. The type for the database is going to be MongoDB rather, and the URL for the database is coming from process.env.db_URL. So we need to add this. However, I will just add the local MongoDB database community edition I have on my computer. Okay, so I'm going to create a .env file and pasting the link to the local MongoDB database as the value for the db_URL variable. Then I'm going to create a new file, entities/user.ts. And inside this file, I will create a basic type_rm entity. I will name the class exported from this user, and it will have the following property: an underscore ID property which is of type object ID, a full name property which is a string, an email property which is a string, and a password property which is a string. I'm going to head back to the src/datasource.ts file where I will import the user entity we just created into this file and add it to the entities array in the object we pass to the data source constructor. Next, I will navigate to src/main.ts file where I will attempt to connect the database first before starting the server. And you can see that if we start up this project locally from the terminal, you can see that we get a message that server has started successfully. And you can see that we also have a message connected to the database which notifies us that there's a successful connection to the database first. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is to go ahead and create a user account and allow them to log in. So I'm going to create a new file, services/auth.ts, and inside of this file we will import injectable from @NestJS common. Then we'll create and export a class which will be decorated with the @injectable decorator. Then we will add an async method create account which accepts an object as its argument. This object has a name property which is an ID, which is a string rather, an email property, and a password property which are both strings. We will destructure all these variables from the argument and use them to create a new user in the database. I'm going to add a save method on the class so you can easily save newly created users to the database by wrapping a call to appdatasource.mongomanager.create with a call to this.save. Then return the newly created user from the function. I'm going to install bcrypt for hashing users password by running npm install bcrypt on the terminal. Then I'll add a login method to the class. This will accept an object with an email property and a password property, which is a string as its argument. We'll attempt to fetch the user with their email, and if the email does not exist, then we'll throw an error invalid email. Then I will attempt to verify their passwords. If their password is correct, then I will return the user. Let's ensure that the login method is an async method to get rid of any errors. We'll add a new method getUserById which accepts an ID argument which is a string. Then we'll attempt to use this ID to find the user whose ID matches this particular ID. I'm going to add a new folder, controller, and inside of this folder we'll create a new file, auth.controller.ts, and inside this file I will import the controller decorator from @NestJS common and use it to decorate an auth controller class which we will export from this file. Then I'll import post decorator from @NestJS/common. We will use the post decorator to decorate a create account method. We will accept the constructor argument auth service which is of type opt service. We'll use the body decorator which can be imported from @NestJS common to decorate the arguments we are accepting in the create account password. Then we'll destructure add the name, email, and password variables on the request body and use them to create a new user which we'll send back to the client. The route for this method will be /register, which we specify via an argument we can pass to the post controller function. We will define a second method which we will decorate with the post decorator. This method will be named login and it will enable user to log in using their email and password. The route for this method will be /login. We will use the get decorator, which can also be imported from @nestjs /common to decorate the get users method. The route for this method is /users, and it allows us to retrieve all the users that have been registered onto the system. We'll navigate to the app.module.cs file where we import the auth controller and the auth service from their respective modules. We'll pass the auth controller for the controllers array, and the auth service will also pass to the providers array. Remember, this is the entry point of our application. So let's start up the app and test the endpoints. Traditionally, we'd use Postmark for this, but I have a VS Code extension I intend to use. So for that, I need to first create a .http file at the root level of the project, and then have attempt to create a new account. And for that, we need to make a post request to http localhost 3000 /register, while passing in a JSON object with a name which is John Doe, and email which is johndoe@gmail.com, and a password test1234. But first, we will pause and head over to VS Code to create a new file inside the src folder named helper.ts. Inside this file, we'll copy and paste in two functions, hash password and verify password. And just as their names imply, they allow us to have the user's password when they try to create an account, while the verify password allows us to verify the user's password when they try to log in. And we'll export these two functions from this file, okay? Now I'm going to install the type definitions for bcrypt. Then we'll head back to the HTTP file to try and create that user account again. You can see that we get back a new user object in the result tab. Next, we need to test the login method by making a post request to http localhost port 3000 /login with a request payload. And you can see that we also get the user which email matches the email we are using to make that request inside the result tab. So let's try to retrieve all existing users by making a get request to http localhost port 3000 /users. And you can see that we get back an array of users in the result tab. We need to install JSON Web Token so we can create JWTs for our users. And for us to do that, we are going to run npm install JSON Web Token from the terminal. After that is done installing, we'll navigate to the helper file where we'll copy and paste in three functions. The first is generate token, generates a new JWT for the user using the email and _ID property. Second function, decode token, allows us to decode a JWT without verifying its validity, while the third function allows us to verify and decode a JWT, okay? So we'll navigate to services /auth.service.ts where we'll update the create account method. After the user account is successfully created, I'm going to create a new token for the user using their email and _ID. Then I'll return the token from the function along with the user object. I also update the login method. After we verify the user's password, we use the email and _ID property to create a token, which will also send back to the client. I'm going to navigate to the auth.controller.cs file where we'll add a new method, get user by token, which is a get request to user /token. We will use the param decorator, which can be imported from @nestjs common. This decorator allows us to extract request params very easily. However, we have not implemented this method on auth service yet, so we need to navigate to that module to do that. Now we are on the auth service.cs file. We will define a new method, get user by token, which accepts a token argument, which is a string. Inside this function, we'll attempt to verify the token first, and if it's valid, we'll decode the token and use the _ID argument to find the user whose _ID property matches the _ID variable we retrieved from the token. Then we are going to return that user. Then we'll navigate to the h.htp file where we'll try to test these new methods and use it to fetch the user from the token by making a get request to localhost port 3000 /users, and then the token we just copied. As you can see that we also get the right user in the result tab, okay? So I hope you found this video useful and interesting. If you enjoyed it, make sure you absolutely smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see me use NestJS more in the future, or if you want to see me use other backend frameworks to build backend apps with Node.js, and so that you can also get access to all of our videos in the future as they drop. The link to the source code for this project is going to be on GitHub and it's going to be attached to the description below. And I'm going to see you in the next video.